Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. It's Friday. You are on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. This is the Coffee Break Show. I'm Vickie Helm. And of course, I've got Scott Stevens with me on Friday. So we're going to welcome him here. And this is brought to you by the Metadime Digital Network. So if you're new here, welcome. Twitter, I know you're on board. You are new to this StreamYard channel. Welcome. And if you're new, put your name down below. We'd love to enjoy talking with you and meeting you. And if you're here for every Friday, then yes, welcome everybody for this Friday. Good morning and happy Friday. I see you guys piling on. So put your names down and say hello and jump on and be with us this morning. How are you doing, by the way, Mr. Scott?
It's Friday. It should be an exciting day. It's good. It's good. I'm just
That's
fighting
good.
with the smoke, the allergies, whatever the heck is out there. I have no
The
idea.
smoke is so thick right now. The fires are everywhere. And, we're in this pocket in Colorado where like all of the fires, absolutely all of the fires come on board for us. Hey, look who's jumped on Friday. Nice to see you, Mr.
It's
Ryan. So good to see you, my friend. So the fires have come up and we have, thick smoke. I know there's a lot of places that are having that thick smoke, and it irritates your eyes. It irritates your lungs. It irritates your nasal cavity. It's just making your eyes water all the time. And it's like, if you don't wear a mask for COVID around here, you wear a mask because you want to protect yourself from the smoke that's coming in,
Something like that. That's
I
for
know.
sure.
I know.
There's no way through it for me.
You're just hanging in there. Yeah. So look at this. We got Karen on. Hi, everyone. Hey, Karen, nice to see you on. So today I just kind of want to be are you all right?
Yeah.
Good. I just want to make sure
you were over here and I had to deal with you over here because the real live you is here.
Oh, yeah, I see. You're like, why did she move over?
Because there was this other second Vicky speaking. And for a moment, I'm like, which one is the real Vicky? I'm time traveling. I'm going back 20 seconds and there she is.
Well, it just sounded like that game. What's that game with the real somebody stand up, please? The real guy. So good to see you and Vicky, you and Scott. My schedule finally allowed me to join you. Thank God you have been a busy bee, Ryan. I'm telling you. Yeah. And so today, what I want to go talk about, we had a big week. We had a really big week. We asked a lot of questions. We talked about the economy. We talked about what's coming up. We talked about how life is in the world right now, in places like China with the floods, with the hurricanes, with everything else going on. We looked at a lot of stuff, and we got to a point where we were thinking to ourselves, man, the world is topsy-turvy. It is really kind of in a wobbly state. But then I had a bit of gratitude at the end of the week for what has been happening. We got a bit of rain over one of the biggest fires that we have. Colorado has the second largest fire. It's currently the second largest, and it had to climb from the bottom to the top to get to that second largest fire. And they had rain come in and just pour on it. And that to me is like, that's a miracle. That's a godsend. You know what I mean?
In the right place too. And we'll see. Well, when we get some of the fire stuff out today, kind of the condition of those particular burns. And let's see if we had any new fires today. Only 7 new large ones requiring response. It's still August. It's still August.
Yeah.
That cool
and we're like,
and the showers,
something is there. Yeah. I guess Donald drove south in the evening last night and the smoke was so thick I could not see the mountains or anything else. It's like fog. It's so thick. It's hey, it's great to see you, Ryan. What's up? People are like, hey, welcome. Look at this. Welcome back. Hey, Jane, how you doing? Good morning. This is for Vickie and Scott. And I still love every night I look at your sunset pictures. I love them. Let's see. And Wednesday was 100th anniversary of the women finally getting the vote in America. Yes. That was a good day. And Wednesday was 100th anniversary, 100 years. You know, we talk about standing on the shoulders of giants right now. 100 years ago, there was a group of women who stepped up and they said, yes, give us the right to vote. We had suffrage. It sounds really bad, but it's actually really good. And it gave us the right to vote in America. Thank you.
Prior to that, you had to be a landowner.
Yeah. Happy Friday, Robin, said Ryan. And so we're on Friday. I like this. What an inviting and warmly embracing group. Love you. Love you too. I hope that's Ryan, but you know, you're always part of that group, dude. We own you now.
We own you now. You and your 25 push-ups.
Yeah. So tell me what happened this week for you that we talked about, that happened, that was really great for us or not, you know?
This week has been a little bit of a tumultuous week across the country.
The hurricane.
The ugly part, the hurricane. Farther north was Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the trauma that that city's been put through. But the hurricane, Laura, is still semi-intact as it works through Kentucky today, bringing them quite a bit of rain and then eventually off the coast. Looking out, there's probably going to be additional storms. There's certainly some potentials rolling out in the Atlantic, so we're going to have to watch that closely. We're still not even to the peak part of the season. That happens early to mid-September, like 10 September specifically. But on the weather show tonight, we'll look at some of the aerials that have come in from Laura, and I previewed some of those today, and yeah, it's substantial. It's substantial. The crazy thing is, and we talked about this, I don't know whether it was on a show, but the cost of lumber.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that over dinner.
Yeah, and how high the cost. We're up 280% since the March lows, when the mills have kind of wound down, anticipating a reduction in need and not realizing that people are going to stay home and sit in their casas for months on end and go, I would like a deck. Let's remodel that. We could use a fence or this, that, and the other. And lumber demand actually climbed during this event rather than trailing off. And so there's shortages. There's a Nashville station, the piece I saw about them, that the additional cost for the average home was going to be between $16,000 and $20,000, just tacked on the price of the house because of the lumber shortage. And so now we've got a reconstruction event going on in Louisiana that's going to require that additional lumber. And the mills are still running 60 to 70% of what was previously normal. So there's some other supply chain issues.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, once again, we've
got disruptions
and diminished supply with this particular topic of lumber.
And it's interesting that it's lumber, because out of all the things I would have thought, I would have seen durable goods. I could see that there's refrigerators and freezers. And we had a friend try to find a freezer and they were out. And they don't know if they could, maybe January. We don't know. Washers and dryers, same thing. Durable goods are down. Who'd have thought it was lumber?
Lumber, base materials, base input costs. You don't build anything out without some lumber. And I was talking to Dawn a little earlier about maybe there's a composite out there that will end up being the savior given 2 or 3 years time. That we realize, okay, enough of the forest. Maybe there's some kind of composite, like Trex for the back decks.
Yeah,
Trex works.
Yeah,
maybe there's something a little more substantial, a little more hurricane, tornado worthy that can be manufactured rather than having to be cut, milled, and shipped, kiln dried, and then treated, and then sent off to the construction site. So, I mean, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
One would think.
You would think somebody will figure it out. But what's interesting right now with all the shortages you're talking about? Look at this. Somebody smart. Look at this. Boom. Hempcrete, that's right. Oh my God, 280% up. That's crazy, but we have seen the inability to get lumber here. Hempcrete is coming. And you know what's interesting right now? I think hemp is going to make a comeback because of this supply chain. It's going to come back. Paper, probably toilet paper, but paper, clothing, lumber or building material, etc., we're going to see a renaissance of some of the commodities that have been unnecessarily illegal for decades. And we're going to see that come back. We're going to have to look at things like when you said lumber, I just started thinking, the supply chains and everything else in China that made everything for us. What about tools? We're looking at, nails and screws and nuts and bolts.
Yeah. Little motors
all of those
tools.
things being on shortage. It's like if you can get them now because you may need them later, then you should get a box of them now. And it's interesting how our thinking is moving backward to, it's always at the store. It's going to be at the store. And I better get it now because it might not be there later. Even air conditioning.
Even if we have no idea how many little bits, little pieces, whether they're fasteners, whether they're motors, whether they're electrical harnesses,
chips.
There is 1, 2, or 3 manufacturers, and they all happen to be in China. And without those single pieces, the other 99% of the pieces don't work without that electrical wiring harness. And that's what Kia was dealing with manufacturing
IKEA,
cars.
what are they going to do?
Well, no, Kia and Hyundai Motors.
Oh, yeah, I see.
So you've got a $30,000 vehicle missing an $11 wiring harness.
Yeah, I can't get off the lot.
Boom, it's done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these things that we're now seeing, and we talked about this back in March, that they need to come home. It's just they need to come home.
Our manufacturing does.
Yeah, and hemp is big. But one of the things here in Colorado, where we are in the San Luis Valley, is a lot of big money came in trying to get into the hemp business. They had so much money, they thought they couldn't fail. And they failed spectacularly. And it's going to take a while for this industry to get back on its legs and get productive and get the wisdom of the plant back in the people, so we know where to grow it, how to grow it, and how to work that plant in a way. Because
hemp did everything. I mean, they even had hemp soap, hemp ice cream. I mean, it's so versatile. I like this. This is interesting. Donnie says a friend's pickup was invaded by mice and they damaged the electrical system. The part could not be replaced due to the supply chain disruption. A new truck had to be purchased. There was no replacement parts anywhere. This is the interesting thing because we're talking replacement parts for auto pieces. Yeah, we've only begun. And I think for me, this supply chain disruptions, this is my theory and guess, are going to be about 4 years at least, because we have to, it's like all the manufacturing has to either, there's a resurgence, it has to start up here. That means these manufacturing plants have to be upgraded, but then materials need to be brought into the plant. I'm certain we'll see a lot more 3D printing, but if you're looking at materials and you can't get materials because they're made somewhere else, that brings another hump that you have to get over to get your manufacturing plant started again. And so looking at that, I think, China is like underwater. It's just such a swatch of it is underwater. Its EMS is underwater. Its manufacturing is underwater. Some cities have been just completely swept away. And before they can even rebuild, they have to clean up what is there just to make things travelable or workable or anything else. And that's a big project. I don't see us bouncing back from this in 2021. No. I think we're going to see 2021 is going to be rough. I don't think it is going to be, it's the aftermath of 2020 that we're going to be dealing with in 2021. And it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's like you could be a gajillionaire if you can't find the part. Yep. If the part isn't made, it doesn't matter how much you want to pay for it.
And even once 2020 is done, then look at all the roads, all the infrastructure in China that is waterlogged.
Yeah.
And that wrecks foundations.
Mm-hmm.
So much of the infrastructure is going to have to be dug up and rebuilt. And the U.S. military now sources a lot of little things also from China. So they're
interesting.
Yes. And if we, this thing goes hot between the two of us, we will absolutely be cut off from those replacement parts. So we're not prepared. Nobody's prepared for
what's coming.
And once you recognize that you've got a shortage, am I the only one? who else needs this part? How, what's the demand for this part? Then you've got to either license the part, print the part, set up manufacturing for the part. It's just there was an article I read within the last 10 days that it's $1 trillion is what the U.S. would need to spend to bring back, to reshore, as I guess they're calling it, the manufacturing. But
Wow.
we've got a couple of bills sitting in Washington right now for more than $1 trillion. So it's something that needs to be addressed, and probably fairly quickly. And I'm really surprised that it really hasn't been a topic in the election. They're even talking about canceling the debates. They're just like, why? It's just all a bunch of skullduggery, Pelosi said
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah.
So if we can't even talk about the issues, then how are we going to resolve the issues?
Well, it's interesting too, because I don't think anybody's ever led through this. There really are no experts.
No,
None, zip, nada.
No, but
So
if you and I can see what's coming and contemplate, how to get around this, then why can't the leaders? Why can't they? They've got advisors around them. They've got businessmen around them. It's just time to open up the walls between the two sides and start talking.
I think so too, because there's a bit of it. It's like, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. When it comes to entrepreneurship, what matters isn't your political views, your ingenuity.
Yes.
That's what really matters. And right now, ingenuity is the most needed thing. You look at this. They waited over 6 weeks and parts could not be made or replaced. We're going to see more of that. Yeah. There's 6 weeks, and it's like the amount of supplies we're going to be doing without. So interesting. Some of the big things that we make that we love, and I like this. This is true. Brazil is moving to 3D printing. It is, and 3D printing eliminates a lot of jobs. It makes manufacturing, but it eliminates a lot of jobs, and I think that's great.
It lets us be
true Karen Sachs, but unfortunately, electrical systems are hard to replace as they do degrade over time. It's true. It would most likely have to be a piece-by-piece replacement. Buy a horse and a cart. You're being sent backwards in time. So is Italy as well. They're going back, and a lot of people in America are going into that 3D printing as well, too. And one of the things they're trying to make is tools. They have this new kind of material. It's not composite. I'm not sure what it is, but it's strong as an ox. It's probably made of hemp, who knows? But anyway, they're making these materials where they're making tools, because that's another thing, craftsman tools, these things that men are going to be and women are going to be handymen and women. You're going to be fixing it at home, and the do-it-yourselfer is going to be there. I bet a lot of people right now are thinking, I wish I had my granddad's tools. Yeah. My granddad had this thing where, it's a little more, you turn this way and drill the hole instead of, and there's a lot of things there.
And it lasted 50 years. It wasn't made to disintegrate in your hands.
That's right.
3 years. The life cycle,
axes,
the lifespan of these things.
If you don't have a good axe, you need to go, especially if you're in the mountains. I'm saying this because we live in the mountains. An axe and a sledgehammer and those things. I like this. I would like to go car free, tougher than 50 miles from anywhere, but I like to walk and bike anywhere under 25 miles. We're going to see a lot of bicycle stuff going on. That's for sure. There's a lot of that.
That's true.
Now, I've got my eye on a new bike with a particular type of chain that is different, and it lasts longer, and it doesn't need oil and things like that. There's a way of planning your life right now where when it begins to shift, and it's the basic materials. Everybody keeps going after money. Right now, they're show me the money. Okay, we'll show you the money. But when there is nothing to buy, it doesn't matter how much money you have if you can't find it.
And then tires.
Mm-hmm.
Tires.
Oh, yeah.
What is that latex?
Car tires. Yeah.
Over from Malaysia, Singapore, Africa.
And also
a long ways away that rubber is transported in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because we've had tires for cars that are not hollow with an inner tube or sealable. There's actually this webbing, this structure inside the tires, so they never go flat. This tech has been here for 30 years plus. When we take out the planned obsolescence and the need to keep, what do they say? a cure isn't a proper business plan. If you're going to cure somebody of an ailment, that isn't a viable business plan.
And here we go back to sustainability. The oldest standing Western style living structures in the USA are straw and mud home built over 200 years ago. Straw and mud. There is some original they call it first generation wood homes on the East Coast from the time, that we came to Plymouth Rock. Some of those are still standing as well. But on the southwestern side, the straw bale home, less expensive, good material, great R factor in it. I think it's got an R factor of 54, cool in the summer, hot in the winter. I mean, it keeps the heat. It's just amazing. Let's see. Yes, tires took 6 weeks to get new tires for my wheelbarrow. That's just unbelievable. So we're looking at these. It's not gonna happen all at once. I'm telling you, it's gonna take 4 years to we have a lot of some inventory, but some inventory is gonna be hard to get. And I'm like hammer, nails, screws. There's this type of, when you live on a yacht, there's this type of thing that you have where because you're out at sea, you have a whole section of your boat that's kind of like a working area where you have just spare parts. That's it, for the boat. So the spare parts are, filters and screws and light bulbs and everything that you need, because after a while, they're going to be so expensive and they're going to be hard to find, because as we go into this supply chain disruption, you're going to have to move quick and pivot and find those things and some people are doing it now. There's some manufacturers right now that are moving through this particular supply chain disruption really easily, because at the beginning of the pandemic, when they saw it, they started moving around and finding the suppliers they needed from different countries or different places from the around the world.
Then you realize you don't have to have the whole world as your marketplace. You need to be content with a smaller market share. Maybe you'll end up with just in the States and Canada and Mexico, rather than having to ship the stuff back across both oceans either way. Bringing rubber in from the Congo, because I know they do it there, and there's a lot of slave labor associated with it, and then process it there, ship the tires here, sell them out. No. We can easily go back to the 1940s and be just fine. It works.
Yeah, and this is the thing right here that is interesting. We wanted to sell more items to make more money, and it used to be that you could buy one battery, and then we went to having to buy a pack of batteries. You used to be able to just buy the two you needed. But here, yes, a real issue, built to fail and toss. Yeah. We created planned obsolescence. That was what the manufacturing did. They put, it's like, well, if it breaks over this time, then you can buy a new one and buy a new one. And they had planned obsolescence, and they were built to fail and toss. And unfortunately, that is not playing well for us right now, or the earth.
In a digital kind of world, digital is very, very binary. Either it works or it doesn't work. There's one day you turn something on and it's bricked. It's just done. It just what happened? And they're sealed up tight, so you can't get in. And we don't have the expertise to either solder or diagnose the problem. So the simplest thing to do is just to toss the device. And we begin again, and the cycle continues. Yeah, this next decade is going to be utterly fascinating to see how we get through this without going Mad Max.
Yeah. And what's interesting about being able to do this is one of the great things you have to know in your area right now is your device repair shop. Those people who can fix your phone, who can fix your computer, because as these supply things go down, these motherboards and things that we need for devices and computers and cards and these things that were made, they're going to slow down. And it's either going to be the repair one you have or really exorbitant price to even find a new one? And do you want the new one? So to me, I'm like, okay, what I have is going to stretch and use. And I try to use everything to its maximum potential.
Yep.
To really, really if it's still working, I don't need to buy a new one. I don't need to get another one.
Yeah, you lose a 1 4-cent capacitor on a motherboard, then your DRAM or your random access memory sits in those slots and it's designed for that generation of motherboard. The CPU also within that generation of motherboard. So there's so many individual points of failure built into the thousands of pieces that come together to build something that it's
just like Ryan said.
Yeah, built
to fail and toss.
That maybe there's a crystalline technology, maybe there's something else that more capacity, that we go from this solder and from the way we built computers for the last 30, 35 years with the transistors. Maybe there's something else beyond that we're waiting for the inventions to manifest. Not short-sighted business. Yeah, it's quarterly profits. It's all about the next quarter.
Yeah, trying to figure out that bottom line.
That was Boeing's downfall. Let's juice the quarter, damn the security, damn the safety of the passengers. We'll leave junk in the airplanes because we can't afford the guys to go in and clean out all the spare parts. They've had 737s and 787s sitting, already manufactured, that they've had to go pull apart the fuel tanks to go find the nuts and the bolts and the shavings and all this kind of extra debris that's been left in these planes.
Wow.
It's nuts with a $300 million aircraft that there's that kind of sloppiness with it. And none of it would have happened unless these other two planes crashed. And then you go back and you dissect the corporate culture of Boeing and realize that it was built to fail. It was built to fail.
And that's where it used to be when you said made in your country, like made in America, where we are, that meant something, that meant a standard or quality. It meant a certain level of pride. This was made here. That means it's the best, the strongest, the most highly technologically advanced. And we've kind of lost that, where, we say made in, Italy or Mexico or China or wherever it is made in. It doesn't mean there's a standard of excellence anymore for a set of, it's for a set of products being built right now. And so, I think it's going to be about 4 years, and it's going to be bumpy. It's going to be bumpy for the next decade. And the next decade is one huge transformation. And I feel like we're going to go back to farmers with technology. Everybody's going to be working from home, growing their own food, sustaining themselves, being resilient where they are, and have income coming in via, some sort of online job
some way.
Yeah, somehow. And I'm not even sure we're going to get paid dollars, which might be a good thing. It's like currencies. We might get paid more, Bitcoin, or I don't know. There's going to be a lot of change in this. And I know a lot of people are going to have to look at the difference between, it's like, just because you have the money doesn't mean you should spend that money on that. Yeah. We're going to have a form of different discernment. And I think we're going to be learning some old skills and some new skills, old skills and new skills rolled in together. It's going to be a completely different market. I think it's going to be more nomadic, though. I think a lot of people are going to be more digerati, where they're digital nomads, and they, live here and go there and experience this and kind of move around a little bit. And there are those people that are going to be like, okay, here's my family, here's my farm, here's my, world. It's going to be an interesting future. And now I want to pop over here with Donnie. He's got a story after World War II. My mother's family had lost everything, but they still had land. People were starving, so they opened their property to the neighborhood. People could eat, but there was no fertilizer, and they used brought illnesses. And what they used, no fertilizer, and what they used brought illnesses, but people were still able to eat. I think that's a big thing. We're going to see a lot of We're going to see a lot of community gardening in those places where you can get a plot and grow your food, and all the roofs are going to be full of food and things like that that we can generate. And there's doesn't matter. Small garden can really produce a lot of food. There's a lot of food that can be made. I have a friend of mine. She took a picture. She has a small, gorgeous house, and she's such a great gardener. And in the back, she has this like oasis of food growing. And she took a picture of how much food she had grown out of that. And it's a very small space. And boom, there was tomatoes and cucumbers and lettuce and everything there. I mean, so much food. And I know from my place, we miraculously grown quite a bit of food this year. And that, for some reason, that feels really strong. And even if you live in an apartment, or maybe there's 5 of you squished in an apartment, I don't know how small it is, but you can have an apartment garden there. You can have one indoors that'll produce you food that you can eat every day. Yeah. But I will tell you this, I want to go back right now too, because not only is the supply chain disrupted, but our food supply chain is very disrupted, more disrupted than anything else. And some countries, yes.
Winter's a long time. When you've got a great garden, it looks great, but it looks good in September. But come the end of March and April, you're like, oh, this spring could not come quickly enough.
Yeah, and you get to the point where the cost of food is jumping in price. It's boom, 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 really big in price. And one of the things that is important for everyone to know is that your wages aren't going to grow fast over the next decade if you're a worker. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a business from home, and I suggest everyone does have a business from home, then what's going to end up happening is that you're going to have another little bit of money coming in. But if you don't, growing your food will help you lower the cost of having to choose between paying rent or buying groceries. And then when you go to the grocery stores, maybe you get what you need. I mean, even going back to cloth diapers might be smart right now, because who makes the diapers? Are they made in China?
They could be. They really could be.
And baby bottles and baby everything. I mean, there's supply chains where we're going to have to learn how to take care of our children in different ways.
Nursing is going to be, the story of baby formula is a very interesting story. How formula was sold to the third world, that instead of nursing, they sold the formula, and that incurred an expense on these families. And it's almost criminal. It is criminal in my eyes, how formula was thrown out into the world rather than just that bond between mother and child. It just, no. I'm kind of excited about all this, because it's going to bring us some wonderful changes that'll last generations, and then it'll degrade once again. But this is really a huge opportunity for humanity to wake up, get out of the commercialization, the monetization, the money. You can't eat money. You can't eat it. It doesn't eat all kinds of money. You still can't eat it. You can buy things with it, but you can't eat it.
Wasn't there a Native American who said that? It was like, you can't eat money or something like that. Yeah. And we're getting to the point where that skill is going to be there. It's like, you think right now that maybe even if they had food, that'd be great. But even those manufacturing plants like Del Monte, they got to make cans. And right now, the materials to make the can, to put the corn in or the green beans in, might be up for slowing down. We have an interesting future coming up. This is interesting. True, employees are already falling behind economically, layering on supply chain issues and costs due to supply and demand. It's a scary prospect, yes. But if you start now, if we take actions now, the sooner you start, I mean, you're going to get to the point where the future is all about, are you going to sink or are you going to swim? That's it, sink or swim. And it's going to separate the boys from the men and the girls from the women. Those people who are the action takers and those people who are like, yeah, somebody will take care of it for us. And that's the hard place to be if your mindset's in that area.
Yeah.
So I want to just say, always fun to have you on the Coffee Break Show. And we are going to be here on Monday, and we're going to have some fun on Monday. It's going to be rocking and rolling. And you guys really have a great weekend. And, think about what we said and how you can maybe inventory the tools you have and see what you need, and inventory some of the skill sets. We've been talking about this sink or swim thing, and we're going to continue trying to tell as many people what can be. I have to read this because we got people popping in. Yeah, let's see. It's similar to the margarine story and so many other products that we have been manipulated, forced into using, especially those that are not healthy or wealthy. They're forced to purchase cheaper, not necessarily better. That's true. When you make your foods and things at home, that's going to be the power of it. The paint on the homes were fading, looking like homes in the Depression when painting was a luxury, but people were happy working in their gardens. Yes, and there was a much larger sense of community. Everyone had a purpose in order to live. Yes, back then you had to help each other survive. Yep. And we've gotten so divisive, we're going to have to come back to help each other survive. Yep. That's the future right now. Scott, thank you as always for being with me on Friday. It's a good time, and I enjoy it.
My pleasure, Vickie.
See you guys on Monday. Mwah! Bye.